But then the pandemic happened and all of the opportunities I had went away.
Yeah.
And so it was really scary. And I felt like I was just starting to build, and I was like, getting there. I was like, okay, I'm starting to live my dream now. And then everything shuts down. But then George Floyd passed, and the veil kind of lifted off of everyone's eyes, and they could see the truth a little bit, and they wanted to do something about it. And they opened up. There were so many doors opening up. We want to share your story. We want to share your voice. We want your perspective. We think your perspective is important right now. And so that felt like a blessing in a lot of ways. It felt like we were all on the same page for a second there.
Amandla Baraka is a filmmaker and photographer whose work spans across education, nonprofit, corporations, and small businesses with messages around inclusion and empowerment. Join us in this episode as we discuss her unconventional entrance into film, finding the right community, making sense of feeling, and passion for film. I'm your host, Michael Ornak. Let's dive in. Okay, and we are live. Amandla, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm having a really great day. The morning has been smooth, very calm.
That's good. And honestly, sometimes having a calm day is the best way to get it started, and hopefully it stays calm for the rest of the day. That, to me, is a great day as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to begin our conversation by asking you, what is your greatest filmmaking achievement?
My greatest filmmaking achievement. I would say my best achievement is just the fact that I have achieved anything because I didn't go to school for film, and I had the feeling that I wanted to make a movie my junior year in college. I was like on my way out of junior year in college, and so it was definitely too late to get that degree switched over without paying a bunch more money. So I was just really focused on learning this craft, and so I literally taught myself. I think that is my greatest achievement. And I'm still teaching myself every day. I like try to study something and like learn a new thing every day. But in the beginning, I'm kind of like a little bit of a hacker, so I so I
Nice.
would go to like different school websites and kind of steal the curriculums when they used to post them. And I would just kind of follow the books that they were telling other people to read for their classes. Like I did that for NYU, and I did it for USC, and I just kind of like took the books that were on the website, and I was like, oh, I should read these. And
Yeah.
that was kind of like my journey into film. And so I don't know, every time I just think about that start, I'm like, wow, I've come so far. So I do feel like that is my greatest achievement.
Yeah, and Amandla, what were you studying in college before you switched over to filmmaking?
I was studying communications. So
Okay.
I went into college with a journalism major. I left college with a public relations media major and a graphic design minor. A switch that I made because I felt unfulfilled in the journalism department. I wanted to, I think essentially I wanted to make films, but I just didn't know that yet. I just wanted more imagery in my life. And so I figured if I went into PR or something that was more to do with marketing, I could kind of make my way into, the image making world.
Definitely, right? Step by step, using that college major to use your creative skills to get a job such as filmmaking. Yeah, I'm on the same boat. So I went to college as well, and very similar to you, kind of slowly gravitating more towards filmmaking more and more. Now, what was your process like transitioning after college into filmmaking? What were those early days like?
The early days were very difficult. I'm going to be honest. It was
Sure.
really hard. I graduated from school in 2014. I am a I'm from New Jersey, and so I was living at home with my dad. and my siblings, my two siblings at the time. And my best friend. My best friend, she was living with me as well because she was from Texas. So we both wanted to be in New York. So we both decided to live with my dad in New Jersey and then commute every single day from New Jersey to New York. If you have ever done that, it is the most taxing, exhausting, expensive thing. It was like 650 just getting to New York from New Jersey, from where I lived. So it was hard. I didn't always have money. I was definitely hustling and struggling a lot.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times I found myself like sleeping in the train station because the commute back and forth, if you don't make it at 2 a.m. when the PATH train is leaving, you
Mhm.
are sleeping in that station.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a lot of struggle, but during that time also like there was a lot of good stuff going on as well. I was kind of making my way through, I guess, the art scene in New York, and I was making a lot of friends and building a lot of community.
Mhm.
Um, I ended up in fashion. I worked for this company called Ashosi, and they hired me to do all of their social media content, and so that kind of evolved into like doing um, it was like I was doing product photography, I was doing fashion photography, I was literally shooting fashion week. I was going to people's like show openings and like shooting the models and the events. I felt like I was kind of free and I was learning and I was stumbling and messing up and growing and I had the opportunity to do these things because I just bought a camera. After college, my first big
Mhm.
purchase was a camera,
What camera?
the Canon 5D Mark III.
Nice. Yeah.
I bought that and I was like, I'm gonna make movies with this. And I didn't make that many movies with it. But I did do a lot of photos with it. Because when
Sure.
people see that camera, oh, you take pictures. That was the question. I would bring the camera to New York with me. So yeah, I mean, the early days were hard, but they're supposed to be.
Mhm.
Because you kind of don't know what you're doing and you have to figure things out and learn and you end up sleeping in train stations because you don't realize you have to, you know, it's like not glamorous, but it was a lot of fun.
Can you talk to me more about finding your voice and your view as a director during those times early on?
To be honest, like I don't think those early on, I think now is when I'm more so settling into my voice and like what
Sure.
inspires me and who I am. 'Cause the first years of my career was just me learning.
Yeah.
I was learning a lot. I was just figuring out how to do stuff. I'm very techie. I like to figure out machines. So I
Mhm.
was like learning the camera. I was learning the lighting. The lighting was the thing that really, really was like the driving force for me to figure out how to operate this camera. I was like, I can't figure out the camera
Mhm.
until I understand this light. Like the light is so important. So like I spent the first like 3 or 4 years of my time, as a working person, just learning and figuring things
Yeah.
out. Um, and I think now it's been almost like 9 years now. Now I'm starting to feel like I don't have to think about that as much.
Mhm.
And now I feel my convictions are showing up more in my work. Um, but in the beginning, what I thought my style was very like topical. It was just like, okay, I like the way this looks. I like the way that looks. I come from a graphic design minor, so I was using color a lot and I was using my composition skills, because I think that was the greatest thing I learned from my degree was composition. So I was
Mhm.
applying my graphic design composition knowledge to my photography and just trying things out. And figuring things out and learning a lot. So my photography in the beginning, there's a lot of different things you'll notice. Like you'll see, I did discover this like tulle fabric. I would put it over my lens and create this like soft look on my
Yeah.
photos. And then as I started to mature, I realized, that that softness can be achieved without the material. And so I was seeking this softness though in the beginning. There was something like I was looking for to kind of make things feel more accessible and softer and easier. Um, even though my reality was that I was hustling and I was like jumping turnstiles and staying out late and partying until like 3, 4 a.m. and then having to sleep in the train station. Like
Yeah.
my reality and my photos weren't really the same thing, but I did find a lot of enjoyment in capturing um, beautiful things and beautiful people, women in particular,
Mhm.
especially women who are darker toned, like women who
Yeah.
look like me. Because I think as a kid, I was always looking for that sort of representation of beauty for myself, just to say,
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I see that's beautiful and that looks like me. So I think in the beginning, I was attempting to find that and shoot that more. Um, I said a lot just now. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, and you gave me way more insight on top of
Okay.
that question.
Okay, lovely.
You mentioned that you were shooting for softness, an ability for everyone to access what you're putting out there or like feel that they can access it. I know it's very hard, and I struggle with this, describing how to create a feeling. But if you're able to provide me with any information on how you're able to create that softness, I'd be very interested to know.
I think a lot of it comes from inside
Yeah.
and what you're able to access within yourself. I don't, I don't, there are some people who can who can express softness from outside of themselves. I'm not one of those people. I need to feel it. I'm very intuitive. I work a lot with my emotions. I journal every day. Really try to understand what I'm feeling and put words to it so I can articulate to people, in just conversation and family and friendships, but also just in my work, like what these feelings are. Because I think a large part of why I got into this was because I had a lot of feelings that I wanted to express.
Hmm.
And so in creating softness, I tend to like look for the delicate things or like look for the things that make me feel soft.
Yeah.
Like a fog, a soft smoke happening in the air, specific color combinations. Um, the way the light falls through the trees, the way a leaf will curve, like curves in a leaf. There's like very specific like elements that create softness and I
Yeah.
feel it, and I can describe it like I can tell you these things, but just putting these things together doesn't always elicit that feeling. So
Yeah.
that's why I say it's important to build it from the inside, because
Yeah.
you can create a fog. You can put a leaf in a photo and see the curve and you can see a woman's face and her expression and does she is she furrowing her brow or does she have a softened smile or softened lip, is her lip upturned or downturned, these are the specifics of it. But when you put those together and then you look at it, what does it feel like for you as an artist? That's kind of where I bring my feelings to my work, if that makes sense. Like I kind of
Oh, yeah.
look at it and how do I feel is always the question.
I love the way you just processed bringing feelings into light, your ability to deal with them, work with them, and understand them. I think that is so crucial for any artist or filmmaker to do, and to hear about your steps, like journaling, adding it all together, and going into like the minute details of facial expression and color grading around. I think that's super impressive. I'd like to talk about community. In your work, community seems to be something very crucial and critical that you do a really good job of showing. I'd like to ask you, Amandla, what does community mean to you?
Well, community is, for some people, community is circumstantial, like where you were raised, uh,
Yeah.
the family that you're in, you know. And then for other people, community is made. So everybody doesn't always feel welcomed in the circumstances of where they were raised. So they go out and they seek people who are similar and like-minded and enjoy the same things and want to do the same things. To me, that's the simplest form of community,
Hmm.
just the rawest, most simplest form. Um, And those people don't always look like you, and they don't
Mhm.
always talk like you. They don't always come from the same place you come from. You could be in community with someone who's very different from you, but you guys have very similar ideologies and ways of looking at the world, and that makes you a community. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people tend to, they sort of reduce community to just skin color,
Hmm.
or they reduce it to political leanings. I don't. My family, I have an interfaith family. We're Muslim, but also we're Baptist Christian, so my family, me and my cousins, we wear hijabs at the Christmas celebration. So
Yeah.
that's the family I'm used to, and also on the other side, my family, they're activists. And so I saw all kinds of people growing up. And I think that what's important about when you're building your community, especially if you don't feel in community with the people that you were raised by,
Mhm.
or the town or the place you come from, it's important to find people who want to take the time to understand who you are.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my work is calling towards that, calling in the people who can understand
Mhm.
just a very specific feeling. Because in the beginning, when I first started my work, I was definitely, like I said before, I was looking for beauty like mine. That was my earlier kind of quest endeavor. I was looking for women, even men, anyone who made me feel like I was beautiful too.
Mhm.
And I thought of that as some sort of community. But as I have matured, I realized that, the real community is in the soul. It's in your soul. So now I'm like, in my work, I'm like looking for stories to tell that I feel are in my soul community, if that makes sense.
And is your soul community those people who so your soul community, if the way I'm understanding it is it's people who are sharing the same ideologies with you to the extent that it resonates in your soul.
I don't know if it's a shared ideology, but I do think it's a shared way of viewing the world. For example, if you take it politically, some people are, more conservative, some people are liberal. And within those groups of people, there are people in them that see the world in a way that will allow them to be in community with each other. So it's really about the people who are open-minded and
Yeah.
actually care about other people. The people who want to see a better world,
Yeah.
an idealized world, and you will fight with those people.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's important to fight with people because that is how you get to a conclusion. That is how you get to an agreement. But
Yeah.
how to fight is really where the compassion comes in, and that's where the community of it comes in. And that is more so what I'm seeking
Yeah.
these days. The people that can fight with me,
Mhm.
and the people that care enough to understand my point of view, and the people that care enough to see me and give me the space to see them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you guys can fight and then go out for food right after,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm fully with you there, and I love the way you articulated it. I felt that one in my soul. Now, as a filmmaker, I guess for this community of souls, how do you see your place in expanding that community and showing that community?
As a filmmaker,
Or artist? I guess both. I want to open up that question further.
um, one, I think the first step for me is just opening my heart more and being physically present with people. I think that
Mhm.
is really important. It's so easy as an artist to kind of hole up in your office and read and think and ponder
Mhm.
and just, complain. It's really
Yeah.
easy to be upset and alone. But I would prefer, I think a big part of this, like evolution of myself, but also for humanity, because a lot of us have been self-isolating. I think it's really important for us to go outside to other people and then like actually just talk and listen
Right.
and ask questions, like be curious, touch grass. Like I think
Mhm.
that's really important. Um, and as an artist, I think I have the ability to take in a lot of different perspectives and emotions and feelings and, you know, kind of transmute that into a message or a word
Right.
or and then create a story from it.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's just because I take in a lot. I'm literally like a sponge.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get so full up, but if I'm just home by myself all the time, it's not healthy. You have to go out and you
Yeah.
have to have conversations so that these ideas and feelings can be changed, transmuted, transformed, and then brought into your work. And I think a lot of what I'm working on right now is finding gonna call it a formula, but finding a formula for taking like all that I feel and bringing it and distilling it into a single log line.
Yeah.
Literally. It's like bringing a bunch of complex emotions, feelings, finding the singular image that can portray that, and then creating like a single sentence that can explain all
Yeah.
of that.
Are you
And
gonna
it's very
patent it?
hard.
Or are you gonna patent the like the one liner, the
Am I gonna
formula?
pen it? I don't know. I feel like it's right now, I feel like people have these. There's a lot of story formulas out there.
Yeah.
People are full of information. There's like information is out there. But I
Yeah.
think for me, the person that I am, just because I do take in a lot, I need to for my own personal self, I just need to find a way to make sense of it so
Right.
that it can become a story, or else I'll just be sitting on it. Don't know if I'm even supposed to make sense of it or if I'm not, but I do feel the urge to distill it. And I think because I feel that urge, then I should just follow it, no matter where it leads. Um, Even if it leads to nowhere and I just realize like I could just use the save the cat method.
Yeah.
Like I could just use the methods that are already out there. Um, but for me, I think it's more so like a spiritual exercise and just trying to help myself make sense of this world. I don't think
Yeah.
anything like necessarily has to make sense. I think a lot about the world doesn't make sense. And it's okay. And also, it's okay to question that. And we should question it.
Yeah. I'm I'm with you there as well. And I wanted to circle back a little bit. You were mentioning the importance of going out and talking with people and gaining their perspective and not just sitting there and consuming knowledge. So many people are guilty of it. And then during COVID, right, there was a giant lack of people just meeting in person and communicating. What was it like as a filmmaker during the pandemic?
Honestly, if I'm being honest,
Sure.
I enjoyed the shutting down.
No.
I did. I enjoyed the shutting down. I did not enjoy the sickness.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy people dying from the sickness,
Hmm.
but I did enjoy just everybody slowing down. Like we were forced to. People were intentional. People were reading books.
Uh-huh.
We were getting checks. We were getting paid.
Uh-huh.
Like that is an ideal life for me.
Get paid, read books. I feel you.
Slowing down, just like being intentional, because it was just nice to not have to absorb so much.
Mhm.
And I read a ton of books, I watched a ton of TV shows. I finally got through The Sopranos and The Wire
Yeah,
during
that's
the
on my list.
pandemic.
Yeah.
It's See, but it took a whole pandemic for me to
Yeah.
slow down and just watch the things that I was interested in watching. So I did enjoy that. But in terms of work, for a second there, I mean, it was pretty bleak because I wasn't sure how I would pay for things. But then in a weird like way, George Floyd's passing opened up a lot of opportunities
Hmm.
for everybody, for everyone of color,
Yeah.
every single person of color. George Floyd's passing opened up these opportunities. But all the passings after that, it just became very clear to everyone who had been sitting in their homes, you know, able to be quiet, able to slow down. It had become very clear what was wrong with the world. And everyone collectively was ready to change it.
Yeah.
Even if it was like superficial, even if it was fleeting, even if it was, what are people saying? It's a trend
Hmm.
for some people. I think that collective consciousness was like a vortex into something very positive for a lot of people. And I really hate that it took the death of a black man by a police officer for that to be the case. But I had quit my job in 2019, like right before the pandemic.
Hmm.
And right after I had done my first commercial, right after my first commercial, I quit my job. And then I had been working commercially and, music videos and stuff like that
Yeah.
since I quit. But then the pandemic happened and all of the opportunities I had went away.
Yeah.
And so it was really scary. And I felt like I was just starting to build and I was like, getting there. I was like, okay, I'm starting to live my dream now. And then everything shuts down. But then George Floyd passed and everyone the veil kind of lifted off of everyone's eyes and they could see the truth a little bit and they
Yeah.
wanted to do something about it. And they opened up, there were so many doors opening up. We want to share your story. We want to share your voice. We want your perspective. We think your perspective is important right now. And so that felt like a blessing in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. It felt like we were all on the same page for a second there.
Yeah.
Um, and then, naturally, that changed. I expected that to change.
Sure. Did it
Um,
change sooner than you thought, or was it longer?
Frankly, it was longer. I mean, I expected it to change like minutes after.
Oh well.
I thought, we would all be collectively on the same page for like a month or so.
Yeah.
When all of the heat died down, but I think people were pretty much open for a long period of time, and it wasn't until there were people who were never on that page,
Hmm.
they started to push out their propaganda and
Yeah.
the way they see the world, and that became the dominating force again. It just kind of weaseled its way back in,
Yeah.
and now we have the state of things we have
Yeah.
today.
The divide right now.
Yeah.
Man, how did you see your filmmaking career take off after the passing of George Floyd? Was that like a big stepping stone for you, or was it taking off before?
I want to say it wasn't a stepping
Sure,
stone. It was taking off before.
gotcha.
But what I will say is that the processes of pitching and putting yourself out there as a director, there were more opportunities. More people were looking for that. In the beginning, I mean, right before I quit, I had done an Adidas commercial. So I was already on the path.
Yeah,
I was on Free the Work, RIP to Free the Work. I was on Free the Work. Um, I had production companies reaching out to me there. I was working on a Microsoft job, done jobs like during the pandemic virtually. So I was working. I was still
yeah,
working. But after his passing, I think a lot more people were like, hey, here's this person. Hey, here's this creator of color.
yeah,
Hey, here's this black woman who's making films. And taking photos,
Mhm.
people were just more interested in seeing where we were,
Sure. And
putting us, like, platforming us. And I think that is the truth for a lot of us. And then I started to hear conversations around people were only kind of doing that because of the fact that I was a Black woman, or, as if it was like something that um, made my career easier,
yeah.
which is mind blowing to me.
Can you
But
talk a little bit more about how that made you feel?
well, it made me angry. It is very frustrating because I worked very hard. I had to deal with a lot of people who underestimated me before I even opened my mouth. I used to, when I was trying to get a job at studios in Brooklyn, I would go into the studios and I literally had my resume in hand. I would be in email correspondence with these people, and I would go in for the interview, and I felt as soon as I got into some of these interviews, they would be like, "Can you lift 50 pounds?
Well,
Are you able to lift 50 pounds?" And I would be like, "Yes." I'm a human, 50
yeah.
pounds is not that much. But they're like, "Can you lift 50 pounds?" And I would say yes, and then the interview would be very stale,
And that's
flat.
without looking at your resume, right? They're like, can you lift 50
No, they're not
pounds?
looking at my resume at all.
Whoa.
One guy,
Yeah,
my
that
resume was
sucks.
sitting on the table right in front of us, and he's just looking at me the whole time. And a lot of them just turned me down just based on what they perceived of me.
Yeah.
And that was my experience a lot. And then to hear people say that I'm just getting, or not me in particular, but to hear people speak like that and just say, like, people are getting opportunities because they're Black or because they're women, is saying more about the industry than it is about the people that you're talking about. Because
Yeah.
that's not a me problem. If that's the case, if the case is that I'm getting the job because I'm a person of color, I shouldn't be. I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
My opportunity shouldn't be taken away because these
Yeah.
people have this sense of guilt or this sense of, like, trying to check off a box or whatever. Like, something is going wrong with them. But I felt like
Mhm.
the vitriol and the negativity and the consequences were happening to me, which is the part that I didn't feel was necessarily fair. Um, but then, are things supposed to be fair is the other question. You know, like,
Yeah.
I think that my experience makes me very qualified to do very specific things that
Mhm.
people who don't have my experience are just not qualified to do.
Yeah.
And I think the opposite. People who are qualified in other ways should do the things they're qualified to do. I personally try not to extend too much attention to that noise.
Sure.
And I understand that me, as a woman and as a Black woman, that I have to carve out my own space.
Mhm.
That's always been what I've known, but, like, it's become apparent, very evident now that I am going to have to do that. And if,
Yeah.
the community that we were talking about before, this soul community, these are the people that I'm calling in to help me do that. Those people who can see the truth and just see skill, talent, humanity. Um, they have taste. They're excited about making art. They're excited about making art with people and not just
Yeah.
with certain kinds of people. Yeah, I'm calling those people in, and we're going to carve out our own worlds, and we're going to have our audience that loves us and that wants to pay for the things that we do. You know, this is a fact. This is a
Yeah.
fact. It is, because it always happens like that. That's the law of the universe. Anything you put your attention to, anywhere attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah, and what comes from the soul is authentic. And I
Mhm.
think people, there's some deep intuitive draw towards authenticity.
And also people connection as well. Like, when you say authenticity, that draw towards authenticity, I think it's just the feeling of wanting to connect and be understood and be felt. That is the most valuable resource in the world.
We can't survive without it.
We can't.
We really can't.
We literally can't. And I think a lot of people, a lot of the industry overvalues entertainment
Mm,
over connection.
yeah.
And you can be entertained and find connection at the same time, but what we're seeing is like the entertainment comes first and the connection is an afterthought. The emotional root is an afterthought. That's great because there are films like that that I love, but I want to connect to the people that I want to connect to. And I know that I'll find those people eventually. That's just the law.
Yeah. And I appreciate your optimism because you're putting yourself out there looking for the right people. And I'm assuming people have been coming into your life who share that same vision as you do. And a lot will resonate with the vision you're speaking of right now. To your points, like yeah, I do get it. A lot of artists have their own niche, their own specialty. But just as there's that, I mean, at least in your book, you read books while you were in film school. You went out and you actually did things. So you have that technical film foundation to really like draw upon in any direction.
I love that you say that because usually when people say that they are self-taught, um, I don't know what goes through people's minds when you say self-taught. I don't. Do you think that I was just like I just arrived one day
Watch like
and
a YouTube
fully
video.
packaged? Like, no, I had to literally teach myself. Like, that is an education in and of itself. I've had my mentors, I've had the people that I've looked up to and I follow, like, I've created my own source of education.
How did you have the drive to educate yourself while you were pursuing your major in communications and public relations? Was I mistaken
Uh-huh.
about the other part? Yeah.
I think it was just curiosity and excitement. It was just fun. Like I was more interested in that than I was in the actual stuff I was learning in class. So I was, I really enjoyed learning about how to make a film. And I really enjoyed learning about the history of film and the different like eras of film, which I thought that to me is like one of the most fascinating parts of the history of film are like the different eras,
What's your favorite era of
how they
film?
transformed. Oh, there's so many.
Or one of your favorites,
Recently,
if you.
recently I've been very interested in the like, and I think this is like I think it's like a collective consciousness here, but
Hmm.
I've been very interested in like 90s indie films, like that era, like that era between 94 and like 2005, those films, but like internationally and it's specifically indie, because the 90s was a fun period. I mean, they were making a lot of good films.
Masters.
Yeah, they were making great movies back
Yeah.
then. And they were so free and experimental and it was weird. It was weird and a lot of it didn't make sense. And I
Yeah.
think that is just beautiful and raw.
Yeah. And it's so important too, because you need to experiment. That's how you're going to find out what connects with people
Exactly. And I think that was I don't know if the intention was to connect with people. I won't say that, but I will say that they were definitely expressive.
themselves, like truly
Yeah,
themselves.
the filmmakers, the artists, they were expressive in a way that felt like uninhibited.
Yeah.
And so I
I,
was really interested in that. Um, what's the film that I just watched? Oh, Gas Food Lodging. Gas
gas,
Food
food, lodging.
Lodging.
I'm gonna write that down.
That's a really good one. I'm always interested in these like realist films that kind of play on your imagination a
Hmm.
little bit. Like it makes you feel like you're imagining, but in reality, that naturalism that feels very cinematic. Let me see. There's also I'm trying not to go in, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
start by saying like French New Wave is obviously the era that brings a lot of like aspiring auteurs to filmmaking. Like that era, they were so creative and they were so free and they were breaking a mold. It was beautiful.
yeah.
I love like Goddard. Truffaut, all the artists of that time, they were making these movies that felt realistic and that felt conversational, but they also felt cinematic, and it still felt like somewhat of an escape.
Mhm.
And I think treading that line is something that, as filmmakers, we always it's the line between, you know, expressing reality and also subverting it or transmuting it or
Like the
transforming it.
naturalism and formalism. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. To your ideal, or to your imagined expression um of the world, and I really love that. I think when I started my journey into like understanding this history, I started with French New Wave, and that is the style of cinema, the foundation where I still draw from, especially as someone who was making documentaries. I think that time period um, was very inspiring. And then there's also a period of Black filmmakers actually in Los Angeles who were doing specifically French New Wave style, but they called it something else. Hold on, let me just Google really quick.
Yeah, please do.
Oh yeah, they called it the LA Rebellion.
Oh, okay.
The LA Rebellion. One of my favorites, Charles Burnett.
Charles Burnett, right?
Charles Burnett, still alive. I believe he works at USC. He made
Yeah.
a film called The Killer of Sheep.
The Killer of what? One more time.
The Killer of Sheep. It's a
Oh,
beautiful movie.
Killer of Sheep. Yeah.
It's a beautiful film. Um, There's also this film called Bush Mama, which is really cool, by Garima, who actually worked at Howard, which is the school I went to. He was like the main film teacher there, professor there, and then obviously you have the icons like Julie Dash, like that time period, like the LA Rebellion. It was like the Black filmmakers that were like, we want to make cinema as well, and we are also auteurs as well, and we,
Yeah.
we have our voice and we have our audience, and that is exactly what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
I feel sort of like I have my voice, I have my audience. It's now my responsibility to reach them and let them know that I'm here, and just show them what I'm doing,
Yeah.
essentially. Because I find that, like, what happens with a lot of filmmakers is, like, we try to fit ourselves into this studio mold and, like, go into that machine. Uh, but that machine is built to eat us and
Yeah.
squeeze us dry and then let us, and the only way you can really, like, have power in that space is if you are relentlessly, like, churning and chugging in that machine. Like, it's nonstop. It's
Yeah.
nonstop. I think for me as an artist, I don't necessarily see myself like chiseling away at my work to fit a studio mold, because the studio doesn't really see people like me often enough to be able to tell me how to chisel my work
Yeah.
right now. So I think it's up to me to, like I said, create that space for myself and create that audience, and then bring my audience wherever I'm at. That's how Issa Rae did it. She was able to find a lot of success through her YouTube videos, her YouTube series. And she built a strong audience, which I was one of,
Yeah.
and carried that audience to HBO. She carried that
Wow.
audience from YouTube to HBO.
Wow.
And now she's got her own studio. And now
Good for her.
she's
Yeah.
making other people's films, like she's an iconic blueprint. So, yeah. Yep. I think I've said enough.
Amandla, I want to know what's next for you before we wrap up. If there's any message that you have for the audience.
A message. Well, what's next? So I'm currently in post-production for a narrative piece that I wrote 3 years ago. And it's been a crazy experience, but I learned a lot. It's great. It will be my first narrative piece, which is a big deal for me because like
Yeah.
I said, I've been feeling very much like, I want to break the mold and kind of create my own stories and tell them in the way that I want to and not in the way that, people are saying you're supposed to. So I've been like looking for this formula for myself to kind of work through and express and experiment with. But yeah, so that will be my first expression of that. And it should be done by the end of this year. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
Um, so that's next. I guess if I'm gonna leave anyone with anything, I would just say, try to, in your day to day, ask more questions. Just be more curious. I think curiosity is an incredibly, like, inspiring driver for a lot of things. Like curiosity will lead you to the most beautiful places. My curiosity has led me and my camera from New Jersey to Ghana to Nigeria to Shanghai to Jamaica to it's led me all over the world. Just the curiosity and the excitement I had for art and image making. And I think if we stay curious, and when I say curious, I mean you have to ask questions and you have to be bold enough to take the answers in. Stay curious, ask questions, and don't be an asshole. But that's my message.
Amandla Baraka, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.